Welcome to the podcast ABCs of Parenting Adult Children. Please join us as we discuss parenting adult children and the unique struggles that it comes along with.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm honored to be joined by Mary Tocco, a passionate voice in the world of health freedom, informed parenting, and generational wellness. With over 40 years of experience in natural health education, Mary brings a bold and heartfelt perspective on how early parenting choices echo into adulthood and how parents can stay connected, supportive, and aware as their children grow into independent thinkers. Hello, Mary. How are you?
I'm great, Jim. Nice to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you. So, Mary has a book called Natural Immune Development, a deeper understanding of our immune system. You have that where you can kind of show it on camera?
Sure,
Yep.
absolutely.
There you go. And can you get it on Amazon or where?
Actually, you can get it on Amazon. It is also downloadable on Amazon, or you can download it on your phone, or you get it right from my website, which is childhoodshots.com,
Okay.
and either place.
So, Mary also has a 6-part DVD series called Vaccine Risks, Responsibility, and Rights.
Yes. And just so you know, Jim, this is based on 35 years of research. I go all the way back to the early polio vaccines before we had vaccines, actually. And I talk about death rate declining because of sanitation and all the other things. And then decades later, they introduce these things, right? And it's a whole series all the way up to most recent data.
That's awesome. You also have a brochure called Aborted Baby Tissue in Vaccines, a Moral and Ethical Dilemma.
Yes. And I make these available for anybody who wants them in bulk as well as individually. When people get my book, I always add that in as an extra gift for them. But all of that, again, it's all about just information, sharing information with people.
Gotcha. So, in this conversation today, we'll explore everything from the power of intuition in parenting to the impact of childhood health decisions on adult life and how to stay grounded as a parent in a fast changing world. Whether you're navigating differing values with your adult children or trying to rebuild connection and trust, Mary offers wisdom rooted in experience and in a deep love for family. And to the listening audience, I know this is ABCs of Parenting Adult Children. However, we are also the context that we're offering here is the adult children that have babies of their own, children of their own, or the parents of the adult children are now grandparents. So this is very relevant to both the adult children that may have children of their own or the grandparent.
Absolutely. As we get older and we become parents, we realize that we make a lot of decisions on behalf of our children, and God calls us to protect them. And that means looking at the schools we put them in. That means looking at the homework they're bringing home and the books that they're reading and the friends that they're hanging around with. The environment in your home, all of these will have a huge impact on your children and your grandchildren. And so I believe that this information, whether you're a grandparent, 85, 90 years old, and you yourself are being asked to do some of these things, or
Mhm.
or whether you're a new parent and you have children, or you've got teenagers who will eventually be adults and have their own families. This affects everybody, no matter where your background is, what color you are, what religion you are, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent. It affects all of us. So that's why this is such a very important topic.
So today we're going to this is a part of a mini series. So this is episode 2. Today we're going to talk about the explosion of chronic illness in our pediatric population.
Yes. So most people, I'm sure you probably, growing up, James, you probably pretty much saw that most children were very healthy. We didn't have a lot of chronic illness. But what we have going on right now is we have an explosion in the last 30 years of ADD, ADHD, autism on the spectrum, regardless of whether it's severe to mild, called Asperger's. We have asthma conditions, depression, anxiety, allergies, seizure disorders. Cancer is exploding in our pediatric population when it was non existent. When we were growing up, You had one hospital in your community, and there was nothing called a child or pediatric oncology department. It didn't exist. And yet every hospital now has a major oncology department.
Crazy.
I know it is. The neurological disorders, we have alopecia, hair loss situations in children, dyslexia, eating disorders. Of course, we know obesity is a huge problem. Excuse me. Gut disorders is rampant. Gut and brain connection is something that a lot of people are aware of now. And excuse me, gut disorders is a huge issue. And now even medical science is talking about the gut brain connection and how gut disorders can lead to mental and neurological illnesses of the brain. We have deafness. Deafness is skyrocketing. And learning problems. Children are having a difficult time processing information, learning how to talk. Children have speech delay now. A child is normally babbling by the age of 2 and sentences by 3. Now we have late talking disability. Children are failing to thrive. And then, of course, we have them socially inept. They don't know how to talk to people, which I know the internet has a lot to do with that, but we have a lot of problems with our children.
So there are various illnesses caused from the battery of what shots, I guess we'll call it.
Yes.
38 to 40 first 18 months of life, and 80 to 90 by 18 years of age.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of these things going into our babies that you and I did not get. I think we talked earlier on another episode. You were not born here. You were born in Germany. Excuse me. So you were born in Germany. I was born in the US. I'm one of 11 children, number 7. And we rarely went to the doctor. We rarely got any kind of this unless we were dealing with maybe strep throat. We'd get a shot of penicillin. But we had 3 in the United States when I was a child. And we got one in the form of a shot called the smallpox, which they outlawed shortly after I got it. And then we had a sugar cube. And then we had the injection for the polio. And that was it. Sometimes people got the tetanus vaccine as well. So we're doing a whole lot environmentally as well. Since we were children, plastics are a big problem in our environment. We've got pollution in the air. We have water pollution. We have more chemicals. We have petrochemicals in our environment. We have a whole lot of things affecting our food, such as food chemicals. There's right now 80,000 different chemicals that have come into existence in the last 60, 70 years that a lot of people didn't grow up with. And so, pesticides, insecticides, we have the big glyphosate problem now, where everything that's grown in America has glyphosate, which is called Roundup. So we have a lot coming against us. And so it's not just these things, but it's many, many other things. And that's why I'm delighted that Robert Kennedy Jr., who has been investigating this the last 20 to 30 years, he is going to start unraveling all of the different things that are causing our children to lose their health. And that is just an answer to my prayers.
That's wonderful. So there's a thing, the smoking gun, and what is it, SUID and SIDS, aluminum toxicity, and mitochondrial dysfunction. I almost couldn't
Yes.
say that word.
Just a little history. Day one in the US, when our babies are born in a hospital, they require or recommend that they get one of these the day that they are born. And it is for a disease, hepatitis B, that is common in drug users and prostitutes. It is not a childhood illness. And that particular jab is full of a metal called aluminum. And aluminum is one of those things that it's in our environment, it's in foods, it's all around us. Our body actually can eliminate some of it. But when you inject into the body, it's not that simple to eliminate. Much of it can be absorbed. So that's really what I believe is at the core problem of our babies who die of sudden infant death or sudden unexplained death or fetal demise. And right now, every year, there's about 35 to 3,600 babies that die around the country for no apparent reason. And there are studies that have been done on this over the years as well. And those studies have been taking place. The people that do them are independent researchers because for some reason our government isn't interested in that. And so they've gone and they've compared. I'm going to actually pull it up on one of my lectures so I can speak legibly about it. What they did is they compared the number of babies that die in all kinds of countries around the world. And what they discovered out of 35 countries, the United States is at number 34 for more babies dying every year, the first year of life, than 33 other countries. And so what they're looking at is what could be contributing to this. And the study was done by Neil Miller and Dr. Goldman, and it was in PubMed. And the name of the topic of it was infant mortality rates regressed against number of vaccine doses routinely given. Is there a biochemical or synergistic toxicity? So they saw that in countries where they do less of those jabs than us, that they saw a huge reduction in infant death the first year of life. So a lot of countries, just so you know, they're not mandated. It's an option. You want them, you go get them. It might be recommended by their baby doctors. I don't even know if a lot of these countries have baby doctors called pediatricians. And so, I mean, that's something that developed in the 1970s and was really pushed in the 90s. And so a lot of countries don't have that. In fact, I can tell you right now, Japan has the least amount of babies dying the first year of life, and they do half the number of these than we do, and they are not required or mandated. The parents are 100% in charge of when they get them and if they get them. The doctors make them available. They don't advertise it on television. They don't push it in the school systems. It's a completely free and open system. No different than if you want to take an aspirin, take an aspirin. If you want to take, Excedrin, in other words, there's no mandate. And that's huge. We mandate, Canada mandates, and a couple other countries in Europe mandate, Australia mandates. But where there's no mandating, this problem is not really an issue. And so we have to consider that when Japan takes half of what we do and they're on a completely different schedule and they don't have babies dying the first year of life, that is something that we need to look at. As I said, we do more in this country than any other country in the world. And so it was a study again by Neil Miller and Dr. Goldman, and it showed evidence of a positive correlation. Quote, infants' mortality rates and vaccine doses tend to increase together, end quote. And they said 34 nations were studied, and the top 7 nations with the lowest SIDS rates only recommended 12 in the first year compared to our 38 to 40 in this country.
It's insane.
It is insane. And just to show you how we have reduced over the years, this same group did a study called Human and Experimental. It was published in Human and Experimental Toxicology. And again, Neil Miller and Gary S. Goldman. And they released this in 2001. And basically, back then, they showed in the year 2000, we were number 22. And that was alarming back then.
Sure.
And now I followed it statistically. By 2009, we fell to number 32. And by 2011, we're number 34. It could be worse now. I mean, that was almost 10 years ago. So we have a serious problem in this country with our babies dying before the first year of life. And yet, James, we have clean water. No one in this country is dying of thirst. It comes out of a tap, no matter where you live. We have food banks for the poor. We have soup kitchens. Nobody is starving to death unless it's in a home somewhere where they're being neglected by their parents. We have school lunch programs where kids can go to school, get breakfast, get lunch, stay after school and have a meal before going home, all provided by our government in our tax dollars. We do not have children drinking out of puddles of water or rivers. So third world countries who have all of these issues, will always have babies that die the first, second, third year of life because they don't have sanitation like we do. Our waste goes down a toilet and it's gone. There are countries out there that still have outhouses, or they do it in the woods, or they have holes in areas where they go to the bathroom. So we are the most advanced country in the world. We have more scientists, researchers, doctors, nurses, hospitals, technology than anybody. Our children should be thriving. And so that's the big question. If these things are supposed to improve our health, why are our babies dying in the first year of life more than any other country? And why are they suffering with 30 different chronic illnesses that often require medication and oversight? So basically,
So,
that's what my talks are based on.
so follow the money.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
there's what is the financial impact of all of this? Because those treatments that parents are being forced to have administered to their babies
Right.
are not free, right? Somebody is, the insurance companies are getting billed for those treatments, right?
Absolutely.
And so who creates medicine of any kind?
Right.
Big pharma. You have big
Absolutely.
pharmaceutical companies that are creating, like the COVID vaccine. I can't remember the names of the two major COVID.
Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson
Right,
and
that's one of
Johnson,
them. What was the other one?
Moderna and Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. So those companies are making money hand over fist to provide those vaccines to the general public. And sure, insurance companies are making money or not making money on it. Their insurance companies are having to pay for a portion of that, but our tax dollars, every time we get paid, every 2 weeks or every month or whatever, we pay a premium to the insurance companies for our quote unquote health care, right?
We're actually paying for it. And in spite of the fact that the insurance companies are paying for all this, they're making billions and billions of dollars in other ways. So it is a very, very big financial industry. It's one of those things where every time somebody goes in and gets one of these, there's a 75 cent tax that it's taken out automatically and put into a fund. And those funds have been spent many different ways. But I did want to mention this. One of the things that these have never been studied for is what happens when they accumulate in the body. It's one thing if let's say you take Tylenol every day. Tylenol has acetaminophen in it. Acetaminophen can cause liver failure. But it doesn't happen the first time you take the Tylenol. It happens down the road, right? 50,000 visits to the emergency room are for people who have liver failure because of Tylenol. In fact, other countries outlaw Tylenol and acetaminophen in medications, but not here in the US. We're telling our parents when they go in and get all of these for their babies, oh, and if they run a fever, give them Tylenol, which we know it causes liver failure because it accumulates. And the thing about infants is, number one, their systems are fairly new. They're not fully developed. They're there, but they're not fully developed. They develop over the first 7, 8, 10, 15 years of life. And when you're throwing a lot of toxins into that little body, their kidneys are brand new. They don't have the same filtering potential that a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old has. Their livers can become overwhelmed with toxins as well. And that's what happens when people take Tylenol every day. They can end up with liver failure. So that's called the accumulative effect. And that has never been studied when it comes to these things. What happens when a child goes in and they get 38 to 40 of them given to their little bodies by the time they're 18 months old? 18 months. What happens to that little body has never been studied. And I'm very excited about what Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing because he has a gentleman called Martin Kulldorff. He's a PhD. He's the new co-chair of the, let's see, it's called the ACIP. I'm trying to remember anyway, they're the people that determine what jabs get put into the children's schedule and when. So he's the new co-chair. And this is what he said he's going to do, which just makes my heart sing. In addition to studying and evaluating individual jabs, it is important to evaluate the accumulative effect of the recommended jabs on the schedule. This includes interaction effects between different jabs and the total number of jabs, the cumulative amount of jabs ingredients. I mean, it's like finally somebody's going to be looking at this. And it just makes me really, really happy. And so we do see some positive things taking place out there in regards to this. And really, until we start looking at the cumulative effects of the air toxins, the food toxins, the water toxins, and what we're injecting and ingesting into our babies through medications, until we start looking at all of that, we will never know what the causes are of all of these illnesses.
Well, it's kind of sad to me that we've gone this long and that our government agencies collectively have allowed this to happen. And
Absolutely.
excuse me, I don't know. It just like I said, follow the money, and there's going to be and has been a lot of pushback on your research because it's exposing the insidious underbelly of corruption. And
Yes.
people are making lots and lots of money. Companies are making lots and lots of money over this, and they want the masses to be ignorant. They want us to be ignorant and unaware of the facts so that they continue to profit off of it.
And of course, they didn't start doing them into the schools. Now they say it's required to get them into any public education, and even private institutions are adopting that or have adopted that. But number one, you can avoid it in many, many, many states by signing a waiver form, but you have to know your law. And basically, I go into that in great detail on this series because if you don't know the law, you're no different than a slave. And that's exactly what has happened here. When you get a letter from the school saying, your child is not up to date on there, and you have to have a new record in the office here by Monday, or they can't come to school. Parents immediately, no, and they run to the health department and they get what they need, or they go to their doctor and get what they need to get them in school, which is not true. I lived in Michigan most of my life. I'm from Michigan, and we have a group there called Michigan for Vaccine Choice. Whoops, I said that word. And basically, I started that group with another couple people back in 1994, and they were going to pass a law. They were trying to pass a bill that would remove our philosophical exemption to these things to get them in school. And I have 5 completely non-jabbed kids. And at the time I had one in kindergarten and one in like 3rd grade. And I helped form this group, and we went into our government offices and under our health policy people there. And I testified as to how important it is that we remain the authorities and have the right to say no to these things for our children. And that bill never passed because of our group. And our group is very active. Michigan has 3 exemptions. They have a philosophical one, and that's for whatever reason you don't want them, you don't have to do them. You sign a form to get your kids in school. The second one is a religious reason, and that's why I put together this brochure on the use of aborted fetal tissue, because if you're a Christian and you know that abortion is a sin and wrong, why would you ever consent to it being injected into your children in the form of human DNA? I don't think you would. I think you would see that that is truly a religious exemption. And there are other things on my website, childhoodshots.com. I have biblical support for not vaccinating. I said that word again, but biblical support for not doing these under my articles, because there's a lot of biblical support as to why putting animal products, human products, bioengineered products, filthy products into the human body. And so that's available. But anyway, we were able to defeat that bill. And to this day, they have 3 exemptions in Michigan. There are other states that have 2 and 3 exemptions as well. And
Right.
I used to have a updated map on my website but I think a couple things have changed in the last few months. But my website, under the research tab, you'll find a map and it'll tell you what your exemptions are for your state. But then I want you to check with your law. You can literally just put it in your search engine. What are my vaccine
what is your
exemptions?
website?
Childhoodshots.com. One word, childhoodshots.com. And people
Yeah,
can
here we
also
go.
find it, Mary Tocco, MaryTocco.com will take you to that site as well.
Let me bring it up. Share. There we go. So where's the
If you go under vaccines, the word vaccines at the top, and where did it go? Oh, where's my map? That's a good question. Laws and forms. There it was. Go under the first one under vaccines. There you go. Click on that and scroll down to the bottom.
Oh,
And
there you
there's a
go.
map. There you go. It was so tiny on my screen, I couldn't see it. But that'll
I
give you
got
an
you.
idea of what your exemptions are available. But check, because there are several states that are trying to get more exemptions back. There are some states that have no exemptions. Like California removed all of them, including the religious one. And New York got rid of all of them. I think one other one, Vermont or Rhode Island. Anyway, you have to look at your states. And if they have no exemptions available, I would say move out of your state. Because if your state is that liberal and that much like a communist country, there's more coming down the pike. You are in danger. If they won't accept the fact that you have a right to decide what you get injected into your babies, that is a communist state, without a doubt. And I would just move out of there. Your children are counting on you. Your babies are counting on you to protect them from this.
That's
So
crazy.
it is crazy. And if you go under health articles there, James, look under health articles. You're going
Okay.
to see I have biblical support. Do vaccines cause autism? Flu shot in pregnancy. They're recommending flu shots during pregnancy. They're recommending the diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus vaccine during pregnancy. They're recommending all of these during pregnancy. I'm sorry. And you know what? Never has any of that been studied. None whatsoever. So you have to really protect your bodies, protect your unborn, protect yourself, get the right obstetrician who's going to allow you to have natural birth if possible. The less medical intervention, the healthier you and your baby will be. There's so many things that we as parents have to be aware of. Even having your baby born in a hospital carries tremendous risk. And I had 4 of my 5 babies born at home with midwives. And I planned my first one to be a home birth as well, but I had 3 days of labor. And I'm glad I went through that experience because it showed me what I didn't want to go through for the rest of them. And so I really encourage everything as natural as possible. I do a whole lecture called Raising Children Nature's Way. And I've been doing this lecture for 15 years. And in my lecture from 15 years ago, I talk about food additives, coloring, bad fats, plastics in our environment, chemtrailing in the skies, drinking clean water versus tap water. I covered all of this a long time ago. And so I've been working on this for many, many, many years. And that's why I'm really excited. And I have some hope that we can see some changes here in this country with Robert Kennedy Jr. at the helm.
So I see that you've read the book How to Make Friends and Influence Enemies.
Yes, I have. And one of the biggest things when I talk to people is I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not trying to make parents feel bad for their decisions. I have met thousands of parents as I have spoken all across the United States and Canada. There were years I was speaking 3 to 4 times a month and doing nothing but traveling and speaking because I was the only one doing it back in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. No one else was willing to do it. It was me. And so I've met thousands of parents who would come up to me during our break and have tears running down their eyes and down their face saying, I knew it was those things. I knew because my baby was happy and smiley and had that sparkly, look in the eye when they looked at me and pat a caking and giggling and happy. And they went in for a series and changed overnight.
Well,
And
and one of the things I would like to say is that as I have been talking to you and looking at your research and listening to you talk, I would like to say that you didn't just fabricate all of this stuff. You didn't just pull this information out of the air, and you're not. I appreciate the fact that you are not talking negatively about the medical profession in general.
right.
In that you have done the research and you've studied under very smart people that have also done that research and have come to the conclusion that these medical treatments are detrimental to our children, and ultimately they're detrimental to teenagers and young adults. It just Ignorance is dangerous, and
It
the
is.
Bible talks about that. It's just downright criminal what's been going on.
And if we don't ask the hard questions, we're not going to get the answers. One of my quotes is, you don't know what you don't know, and you won't find what you're not looking for. As we're being raised, we're being exposed to things in our environment. If your mom and dad were in the medical field, then automatically, if you had a sniffle or a cold or a cough, or you got a medication or you got an injection, that was the tools in their tool belt. I was blessed because my mother had 11 of us. We didn't run to the doctor for everything. She let things run its course. She learned very early on that just let it run its course, and it will. We were all very healthy, robust kids. And today, I'm number 7 of 11, and all 11 of us are still alive. No cancer, no heart disease, I mean, it's actually a miracle. And I believe a lot of it had to do with my mother's prayers her whole lifetime, praying for our protection. But my mother was way ahead of her time. Back in the 50s and 60s, she was doing vegan and vegetarian diets as a cleanse at certain times of the year. She told us, go out and stomp in the puddles and have fun. Don't worry about the rain, it's not going to hurt you. She never told us, if you get cold and wet, you're going to get a cold. She'd say, yeah, you're strong, go handle it. We were not hampered. We were allowed to play outdoors, running barefoot up and down the streets. And I grew up outside of an hour from Detroit in a rural area, but we were barefoot most of the time, playing kickball and baseball. And we had a pool, and that pool would be in Michigan. The water would be, I'm not joking, like 65 degrees when you fill it. And we were in that pool. We were robust kids. And that's not what's happening today. Our children are being raised with bacteriophobia. You know, antibacterial soaps are terrible for the human body. They wipe out our good bacteria that protect us. And yet during the COVID time, everyone was told, sanitize, 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 bacteria. It's like we had these little things chasing after us to get us. I mean, we were lied to about so many things. And I encourage people to get out, put your feet in the dirt, put your feet in the sand, get grounded. We get negative ions from the soil. Let your children run barefoot. Let them be in the sunshine. It's also been demonized. I make sure I get out in the sunshine as many days as I can for a half an hour, 45 minutes in the morning or whatever. The sunshine is needed. It's necessary. And yet we've been, told that it's dangerous and it'll cause cancers. What it does
I
is
think
it draws cancer out of our body, and so it becomes obvious.
I think everything is good as long as it's done in moderation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't think there's some things that you can't do in moderation, though, because they're too dangerous. And this is one of them. I've had people say, well, what if I just do this or that or this or that? The research shows that just one of these, if your child is predisposed, genetically predisposed, one of them can kill or cause severe injury, because everyone is unique. And one of the things we don't pay attention to in this country is allergies. How would you know if your baby at 3 or 4 months of age is not allergic to the 700, 800, 3,000 chemicals that are in this, that are bioengineered and made in labs? How would you know if that newborn body isn't going to have a severe reaction immediately because it's foreign? It doesn't belong there. You won't find any of this in nature, none of it. People think that the measles thing is just measles. It's not. It's a attenuated, bioengineered virus created in a laboratory and thrown in a vial with many, many other diseases, preservatives, additives, adjuvants, and chemicals that we can't even eat, let alone do this. Okay. It's so much more deeper than most people realize. They don't realize the dangers. They don't realize the immune system reactions are beyond what we can even study when you do one of these. I like to make an analogy. If I was walking in the woods and I got bit by a venomous rattlesnake down in my calf, does that venom stay right there?
No, absolutely not. Circulatory system circulates that venom everywhere.
Okay. And how long do you think it might take me? We could just guess before that venom starts to cause liver failure, organ malfunction, respiratory failure, and maybe start heart problems.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'd say within an hour or two, maybe 3 hours. And if that person doesn't get the antivenom immediately injected into their body, what's going to happen to them within a day?
Oh, it's not going to be good.
No, they're probably going to die. I asked that question to a leading expert at MUSC Hospital, and I'm not going to give out the information. A meeting 2 weeks ago, I had it, and I asked a leading expert on this topic that very question. And the answer was like yours. It would get into the blood. It would eventually kill them in a very short period of time. And if they didn't get the antivenom, they're going to die. That's because of something called cumulative effect. We have a system in our body called the interstitium. It's the fluid highway system of the body. And I didn't know anything about it until I started researching for my book. And I discovered that they discovered this new organ, 18. They, being the medical experts, the scientific top doctors in the United States, or all of a sudden acknowledge that we have a organ in the body called the interstitium, and it's the fluid highway system. And they really didn't acknowledge it before this. They knew nothing about it. And they go on to say that it's connected to every single organ, tissue, cell, ligament, tendon, including the brain, everything. And that's how things get circulated around the body. And so I said that. And then I said, these are deep tissue injections. And I brought up the point that they have never, ever studied what happens in the whole body, in the cumulative effect of what happens when this goes in, containing phenol, acetone, formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, glyphosate. They're finding glyphosate in these things now, which causes cancer. They've never studied this, Jim. And to me, that's like, how can you say they're safe when you've never looked at the accumulation in the body? You can't. And that explains why one child will have brain injury. Another will have lung problems. Another will have pancreas issues and be diabetic. Another one will have liver disorder, liver failure. Another one will have neurological problems in their gut, will have gut problems, GI problems, which then cause brain problems. No longer their GI system is assimilating, digesting, and absorbing food. It's been affected in such a way that it is now hypersensitive. In fact, these things can open up the pathway between your colon and your blood system, allowing food products and things to get into your blood that don't belong there. They don't belong there. And then that leads to allergy and high allergy reactions. So we don't even know the fullness of what these are doing in the human body because they've never studied it. And here's a quote. This is not Mary Toko's opinion. This is based on fact. May 15th, 2024. Larison, who is the lead for CDC's global work at that time, she admitted that they were very concerned because they do not have the necessary safety studies to support the jabs, and her concern, the anti-jab movement was growing by 500% faster in recent years. Praise God. All those years of doing this, praise God. Larison also says, doctors, quote, doctors and nurses in medical school are lucky if you get a half a day of education on these jabs. Safety is the biggest issue, fear of side effects. The number one confidence problem is safety. So the World Health Organization You know, they're dangerous. My gosh, they're so dangerous. I'm going to pull you up a quote from them as well. I just lost it. What did I do? Give me 1 second. So
That's
they
fine.
were talking about this in great detail in the World Health Organization. And doctors from around the world were asking questions about the adjuvants. And, you know, is it safe to give multiple different injections from multiple different companies who don't cross test to find out how this is going to affect each other? Is it safe for us to do this? And she actually came out and said, we don't know. We've never studied it. So when you hear about that and you hear that these things have never been studied, that's pretty bad. In fact, I'm going to tell you what the World Health Organization, 19, World Health Organization is on video saying, and this is a Dr. Heidi Larson. She was saying, discussing the lack of science supporting the safety of these, and admitted that they only study the local adverse events. Where it gets put in is local. That's all they study. They don't look beyond. And a baby will go in and get one here, here, and in the thigh and the other thigh in one visit. And when asked this, it's actually amazing. She actually said, as long as they're given in separate parts of the body, it's okay. And I would have said, prove it to me. Show me what happens to that. Where does it go? And this was a year after they discovered the fluid highway system. So apparently the World Health Organization and the CDC are decades behind what's really going on. Because even the chiropractors and the naturopathic physicians, my ex-husband, who unfortunately has passed away, he was a chiropractor. We studied holistic health. My two daughters are both chiropractors. One of them is a family nurse practitioner right here in Goose Creek. She's a functional holistic medical provider. Okay. We knew that you can't inject something in the arm or the thigh and just think it's going to sit there. No different than if you ate an apple. Does it just sit in your stomach or does it affect every part of your body? No, it gets broken down. It gets circulated through your whole digestive tract. The body picks out what it wants from that apple and discards it and sends it to the kidney and to the liver. This stuff is so untested for safety. It's not funny. It's criminal.
Right. I agree. I agree. And I appreciate the research that you've done, and I appreciate your efforts to bring this into the light of day to help educate people and let them understand what they need to do or not need to do. So I think that brings us to the end of another episode of ABCs of Parenting Adult Children. A big thank you to Mary Tocco for sharing her experience, wisdom, and heart with us today. Thank you for the research that you've done. Thank you for bringing it, like I said, into the light of day and help to educate us about what we need to understand and make informed decisions. And I'll say this again, this is not something that you've just fabricated out of the clear blue sky. This is stuff that you've spent years studying and researching other under experts in the field. How do you say that?
Immunological.
Immunologists?
James,
Yeah.
if I showed you my library of books, when I started doing this in 1979, before my first daughter was born, I had to order books. And back then, there were dozens of books on this topic. And since then, there have been hundreds of books published on this topic. And when I learn about a book, I grab it. And they're all well documented because you got to understand this is a politically incorrect position to take. I have been politically incorrect for years and years, and I'm okay with it. And also, I believe that God called me to do this because as a young mom of 2 and 3 kids, I never dreamed in a million years that I would be a public speaker on this topic by 1995. I never dreamed in a million years that God would have my first DVD called Our Vaccine Safe go to countries all over the world. I had no idea that I would be speaking at conferences with midwives and chiropractors and naturopaths and mommy groups, and that I would be flying all over Canada and the United States and being a keynote at massive holistic conferences where I have met Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Del Bigtree and Brian, the gentleman who did the Vaxxed movie, and Andrew Wakefield and I are dear friends. I never knew where God was going to take me on all of this, but he told me, step out and start educating. That's what he said. Mary, start teaching others because they perish for lack of knowledge. And so it's been my passionate calling from God. And that's why I think he's protected me all these years. And I continue to pray for my protection, because I'm coming up against a monster, kind of like what David did with Goliath. And my stones and pebbles are my words and my research. And I tell people all the time, I am a reporter who is dug so deep. I've got the dirt, and they can't deny it, because I put in my lectures in here, I show you the study in the journals. And so I keep my opinion out of it. I mean, it comes a little bit, because I mean, that's just, after years of doing this, it's kind of hard to keep your opinion out of it. But I do nothing but reference journaled articles that were buried and have been buried and are now no longer on the internet. I've got them. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. has my whole series. He's got them too. So
to my listening audience, I'll say, if today's episode resonated with you, be sure to follow or subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you know someone navigating the challenges of parenting adult children, share this episode with them. It might just be what they need to hear. You can find more resources, past episodes, and ways to connect with us at parentingadultchildren.org. Follow us on Instagram and Parenting Adult Children. And if you have a story or question you'd like to share, send us an email at parentingadultchildren@proton.me. That's parentingadultchildren@proton.me. Mary, thank you for being here. And everybody, I'll just say have a wonderful day and be blessed.
same to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tim.
Please tune in next week for another episode of our podcast on parenting adult children.